Our sexuality, as Father Abbot Gregory always says, is a power and a gift. It allows a person to connect with another person. It's an intimacy that we share with another person, and it has to be properly ordered. Many people in today's world think of sexuality in a single sense, man in a sexual relationship with a woman. But for a monk, that's not possible. So how are we to integrate who we are as sexual beings into a monastic life? And a lot of it has to do with developing relationships with people, growing in intimacy, and finding outlets for expressing oneself and loving our brothers.
One of the reasons why celibacy is so integral and so key in a monastic vocation is we are here to dedicate ourselves, to consecrate ourselves, really. Consecrating means being set apart for God. To consecrate ourselves to seek God in all things and not holding anything back. In fact, in the rule it says, when a monk makes vows, not even his own body becomes his own property. It belongs to the community. And in giving our bodies, our whole selves, our total selves, over to God and over to our community, we are essentially living out a celibate vocation in the context of many brethren. We're supporting each other in our pursuit to remain chaste celibate men. Am I giving up something? Sure, there is a sacrificial element to not having a wife, not having children. But what you're giving it up for is to ultimately gain the kingdom of God. Celibacy stands as a witness to gaining the kingdom of God. And it stands in opposition to our current secular worldly values that sexuality is something to be expressed at one's desire. Its object is pleasure or immediate fulfillment or gratification, whereas the sexual act is meant for the context of marriage. It's meant as a very deep, very intimate expression of the union between a man and a wife, and is supposed to be open to the procreation of children. And in monastic life, it has a similar aspect. Our celibacy, our consecration to being chaste, is an expression of our union with Christ.
Of course, all Christians are called to chastity. That is being using one's sexuality in a moral way according to what the Creator calls us to. So married people are chaste in their marriages. But the monk is called also to celibacy, is called to be not married, to use Jesus' words, for the sake of the kingdom of God. And what it means to be not married is in a sense, a monk is making a sign that goes against what is the normal way of life. Most people are called to enter into this relationship that involves this use of their sexuality and the deepest expression of their whole being. This is the strongest gift God has given us, really, our sexuality and the possibility of sexual expression. And so that's the normal thing to do with that is to enter into a relationship with it. So to refuse that use of one's sexuality is to take the same biggest gift we have from God and to make this radical act of giving it to God rather than to another person. And so it's not like sort of not being sexual. It's like taking your sexuality and doing this with it, giving it to God. And what's that mean to the monk? What's it mean to anyone who sees it? To the monk, what it means is that nothing can be more important than God. And I will stake my whole being on it. I will stake all my desires on it. I will cast this into his hands in hopes of a relationship with him, as that I may be with him in an intimacy that I could not hope for if I were in an intimacy with my sexuality, with my wife, and raising a family and children. And Jesus didn't say all that, but it was something like that that people who practice his own call, it's in the Gospels, he calls people to this for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And so people through the centuries who have lived this way have found that promise for intimacy with God, honored by God in response. So that's its meaning for the person who does it most immediately. In some cases, hopefully, it also has a witness value, that if somebody sees me living that way, they're struck by it, either favorably or not, but struck one is. And if I could quote the Apostle Peter, always be ready to give an answer to someone who asks you the reason for your hope. And a monk should always be ready to give an answer for anyone who asks the reason for his celibacy, because it's not normal. And that's the reason I'm giving a hope. I say, for the sake of God, for my desire for God, I'm staking my life on this, that he exists, that one can be in relationship with him, and that one can take his biggest gift that he's given me for the expression of myself and the giving of myself to another, and that I can give that to him. That's the reason for my hope.